not have had this conversation 10 years ago, 20 years ago? What is changing the needle where women like us, plus 50, can talk about menopause?
I think many of us are from that generation where our parents or grandparents didn't talk about it. And now we're realizing, well, that wasn't helpful. So I have no shame in talking about the fact that I'm going on 60 and the experience of hot flashes and whether you take hormones and how do you continue to feel sexual and vibrant, that depends on the kind of medication, and some of our doctors don't know this stuff at all or don't talk to us about it. So we have to have those conversations. I don't want my girls growing up surprised by their bodies, right? So that means we got to put it out there, because here's the thing about menopause. If you get to it, it's a blessing.
Right. That means you've gotten so right.
So I'm not, there's no shame in my menopause game. I am alive.
Welcome back. There's no shame in my menopause game. That was my conversation with former First Lady Michelle Obama. And Dr. Sharon Malone is still here with us. Of course, you're great friends with Mrs. Obama, with Beverly Johnson and Amanda and Megan, all of our wonderful guests who are on here. And we took some questions, and the first most pressing one has been about hormone replacement therapy and the increase in cancer and blood clotting risks. As I said, I've not started menopause yet, but I have to be honest with you, I'm afraid when I hear it because of all the data out there. Clear it up for us, doctor.
Right. And I'll say one thing for you too, Tamron. You are in that menopausal transition, and that's the one thing, a misconception. Women think that it doesn't start until your period stops.
Right.
No.
Oh no, I'm 52. I'm in it.
You're in it.
Ain't no shame in my menopause game.
That's exactly right. And you're on that transition whether or not you're having symptoms at that particular point in time.
Right.
So that's the point I want women to understand.
Because it's a process.
It's a process that can be a decade-long process as you are making that transition.
So with hormone replacement therapy, so I'm in the journey. Are we supposed to start looking now? And if we're, well, what do we do?
No, I think until you are symptomatic, there is no reason why you need to do hormones.
So once you're symptomatic.
But once you are symptomatic, and I think this is particularly important for women of color, because for Black women, they not only enter menopause, this menopause journey sooner, their symptoms are more severe and they last longer. Whereas we say the hot flashes and things that we talk about, usually on average about 6 years. For Black women, it's 10 years.
Patti LaBelle told me that.
Yeah.
That's when I first learned that.
And for a small percentage of women, they will persist into their 70s. They're still having menopausal symptoms.
So what about the fear from all women about increasing cancer and blood clotting?
Exactly.
You see this everywhere.
Exactly. And that all, women didn't make that up. That came from the medical community. This study that I was saying, the Women's Health Initiative that came out in 2002, 20 years ago, that study came out, and it put in our minds that taking hormone replacement increases the risk of breast cancer. And I'll tell you what that study actually showed. It showed that for a small subset of women, there was a slight increased risk in breast cancer.
So most women won't experience.
Most women will not. And I tell you, and when you look at the population of African-American women, we have a higher percentage of having had hysterectomies for fibroids. And if you take estrogen alone, not the estrogen and progestin for your symptoms, those women actually had a 30% decrease in their risk of breast cancer. And that message never got out there. So it's almost for women who have had hysterectomies and you are symptomatic, there is almost no reason not to take hormones. And I think we've got to also get to the point where we stop normalizing suffering, because that's how we define menopause.
I love that. Stop normalizing suffering. We'll be right back. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our hour-long conversation on menopause. Still with us is expert Dr. Sharon Malone and answering questions from the TAM fam. Dr. Malone, I have this question in regarding libido and sex. We have someone in our audience who wrote anonymously, quote, "It seems post-menopause I have more sexual desire than before. Is that normal?" That is the opposite of everything I've ever heard.
Well, you know, I can say if that is the case, girl, I am happy for you. Okay? But that is not typical.
Yeah,
It's
that is not typical.
It's not typical. Most women sort of experience not only a decrease in their sexual desire, but vaginal dryness, painful intercourse,
Does
all
it
these
rebound or does it continue?
Well, but again, these are things that can be treated.
Yeah,
Just
okay.
because sex is painful doesn't mean, and you don't even have to use full dose hormone replacement. There's topical estrogen, just you can use as a cream, as a tablet, just vaginally, that relieves those symptoms, because obviously that's a huge bummer if sex is painful.
Right. But there are things that you can do to treat
There is,
that.
and just
All right.
about every woman, and there are almost no contraindications or reasons not to use topical estrogen vaginally, because it's not only the vaginal symptoms and dryness, it's urinary symptoms, urgency, frequency, frequent urinary tract infections. So that should almost be a no-brainer for most women to use that after menopause, because you don't really think about the cost of those frequent urinary tract infections after menopause.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sharon Malone. We adore you. I adore you. Give it up. I love